So our next topic is the one related to, as we said, advocacy and representation. So our speaker is actually a woman versatile in these activities for a long time now, with a good practice and experience. So it is my pleasure to announce our next presenter, next lecturer, Amélie Leclerc. So she is the board member of the European Women's Lobby in Belgium. She has led an atypical career as court administrator in the French justice system and has now created her own company in Sofia with a focus on European affairs, justice, home affairs, gender equality and accessibility of the workplace to persons with handicaps through training and project management. Since 2014, she represents Business and Professional Women BPW Europe in the Board of Administration of the European Women's Lobby. She is the member of the European Women's Lobby Feminist Economics Work Group. She also represents Business and Professional Women Europe in the WeGate Community Council. Amélie, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Radka. Thank you for the kind introduction. And I will rely on your support regarding coffee breaks, and also I wanted to tell everybody that there will be spaces during the session for asking questions. I will try to make this session as interactive as possible. So just give me a second to share my screen and we can start. Right, so the title I was given was Advocacy Representation, and I'm afraid I have modified it slightly and added lobbying to it so that we can cover the different tools that we have as a women entrepreneur, testing the existing limit to development of women entrepreneurship. We know they exist. We reach them when we develop our companies. Sometimes we feel very alone. And in addition to all the work that you do as a women entrepreneurs, then maybe you should think about doing advocacy, representation, and lobbying. Some of these issues, all the blockage to women entrepreneurship, they have to be tackled at national, European, or even international level. But for example, there is the International Trade Center for Global Impact and the UN, which is trying to support women entrepreneurs in international trade, because it has been found that only 2% of firms involved in international trade are headed by women. Others are local blockages, and we're going to discuss those as well. For your own sake, and because you are members of the various women's networks, we want together to bring solution, to bring change to the situation. Now, I have a first question for you. You can think it through during the session. Do we need to start from scratch? Very often when I meet younger women, because I have white hair nowadays, they want to start their own organization, they want to start a new campaign, but do we really need to reinvent the wheel? So we're going to have a look at what are the tools existing. And also one issue that I want to raise, I'm not going to cover it during the presentation in detail, but is something that could be an object for advocacy and lobbying, is we're talking about women founders, we're talking about women entrepreneurs starting their own business, but we keep forgetting that it is possible to buy out companies from owners who are going to retire. It is more complicated for women because very often when owners who are in the majority men wants to sell their business before retirement, they're looking for somebody who looks like them, and we don't. So these are a few questions I wanted to share with you. I at the beginning of this session. So let's look at the words we are going to cover: advocacy, representation, and lobbying, because if you don't go in details, you're going to have troubles finding your lies. You need to be very precise in the definition. Not everybody, especially because here we are in a multicultural environment with women from many different countries. So you have national cultures even about advocacy, lobbying, and representation. So when you're working together, not everybody has the same experience and definition of advocacy, lobbying, and representation. So let's look at how to say what it is. Advocacy, for example, in my culture in France, we call it plaidoyer, and nobody understands what it is. So advocacy is promoting a cause, pushing for a solution. Advocacy, it can be societal or institutional advocacy. That is, you want to promote a cause or to raise awareness about a cause in society at large or amongst structures, institutions. Advocacy is not lobbying, but it can be done in parallel to lobbying. It is in a way broader than lobbying, and we'll look at that, because it's not only about changes in law, but it's also about correct implementation of what exists and remedial actions to problems that we are facing. So you can run an advocacy campaign either for a whole country or a specific targeted population. Let's say we want more Roma women to be involved and supported in their entrepreneurial endeavors. And we can also use advocacy campaigns to target private sector legal entities. I'm very general because I'm not talking only about firms, but I'm talking also about employees' organizations, trade unions, civil society organization in general, any such structure, legal entities. And do not forget that it's not because they are employees' organizations that they know what women entrepreneurship is. And the trade unions, depending on the country, may be aware or may not be aware of it either. So this is what we are calling advocacy. In comparison, what is lobbying? And here, please, let's look at the definition which is given by the Council of Europe, because lobbying is something that used to be done in the hallways of the British Parliament since the 17th century, well, 18th century, let's say. So in the lobby of the Parliament, targeting the lawmakers to push for legal changes in one direction or another. So it's a concerted effort. It's to influence policy formulation and decision making. And you want to obtain a result that you need to know what result you want to obtain, of course, from authorities, government authorities, and elected representatives. So it can be local level, town hall level, it can be regional level, it can be national level, European level. And when building a consortium, when building an alliance to do lobbying or to do advocacy, it is very important at the beginning to have a discussion amongst yourself about your definition. I'm sharing general definitions. You will need to have your own when you start an action. And if you obtain a new ally for your campaign, you will need to have that discussion again, because they cannot enter a lobbying campaign or an advocacy campaign with false expectation. So you share, you reach an agreement on wording. Okay. And when we're talking about lobbying, and I know why it was not in the initial title is because there's a lot of bad mouthing about lobbying in the media. But we need to do lobbying. And there are problems with lobbying. So you need also, when you start, to think about your lobbying campaign to establish an ethical framework, because you will be asked about it. If you don't have it, you will be in a position of weakness. We will all agree that lobbying needs to be transparent and ethical. And why do we want that? Because you want your cause, your campaign to be supported in the population, amongst lawmakers, etc. So you need to be upfront. Transparent and ethical, we have some tools which are being slowly developed in answer to the different criticism which have been for years and decades about lobbying at European level. So now we have the European Parliament Transparency Register. So for example, BPW Europe, because we are lobbying at European level for gender equality in the workplace and financial independence of women, we have registered our organization in the European Parliament Transparency Register. And any citizen who wants to follow can ask which lawmaker we have met with, etc. You also need a clear mission and vision for your campaign, whether it's advocacy or lobbying, because it will focus you and it will keep you on track regarding ethics. And of course, you need to have your own lobbyist code of conduct. You're doing lobbying, you are a lobbyist, and you have to accept that. I know it's not easy to think of oneself in these words. It took me years. But it doesn't mean that you need to do shady deals. It means the opposite. You have a code of conduct, you have it on your website or in your Facebook page or whatever communication tool you are using, and you refer to it. Because in any campaign you do for change, and that's human nature, you will have enemies and you will have opponents. So your structure needs to be strong and your framework needs to be here beforehand. Right, so that's about lobbying. And then there is the question of representation. Representation. These questions need to be asked at the beginning because they will be asked from you. When you say you represent women entrepreneurs, what is your legitimacy in this respect? Who do you represent? Do you represent women entrepreneurs because you are simply a woman entrepreneur and you think you know all the issues faced by women entrepreneurs in your country? Or are you part of a structure? Do you represent in a institutionalized way a group of women entrepreneurs? Okay. What is the basis of your legitimacy on the issue that you want to make visible? Sorry. So the issue is, how are you representative? When there are surveys, for example, by Eurobarometer or by EGE, so the European Institute of Gender Equality, they always ask whether you answer, or even the open consultation of the European Commission, they always ask whether you answer in your name or whether you answer in a name of structure. So if you say that you answer in the name of a structure, you need to be able to prove it if questioned about it. And also, one thing, representation means that you're going to face, how can I say, questions and attacks. As soon as you put your heads up and say, okay, I want to fight for this, you're going to be attacked, normal human life. So the first thing that I was dubbed years ago was being a historical feminist. And I see time and time again on the media that it doesn't change. And the young generation keep being attacked, being, oh, you're a historical feminist, you're finding problems where there aren't any problems. That's the usual frontline attack by media, by representative of vested interest, that when you want to bring change to anything and you're a woman. And time again, especially when we've been designing our campaign for women on boards, I saw that on TV, especially when there were discussions about quotas for women on board, which was a very heated topic. Well, the women who were invited were women who were not on boards, who had not yet experienced that. And they were asked whether they were feminists. And very often, unfortunately, the answer was, oh no, I'm not a feminist, but I'm feminine. Don't go for that argumentation. Save time, you have 3 minutes to defend your cause in any kind of media. You are told that you are feminist, go for it, don't discuss it. This is not the objective of your 3 minutes, so you skip that. And you go for the core. Yes, we want more women on board, for example. And how come you don't? Return the question. So you have to be strong in your shoes when you're doing campaigning, whether it's through advocacy, whether it's through lobbying. When you become a group of women representative, you need to know that it's going to happen and it's not going to make you sleepless. Train for it in front of the mirror if necessary. Yes, I am a historical feminist. Can we go to the next question? So if you are not alone with that problem, you need to find the way to develop it in a collective manner. I guess you're already doing it because for our nice participants to the We Get Academy, you are aware We Get. It means at minimum that you were looking for support among women entrepreneurs. And I saw also that quite a few of you are involved in the Chamber of Commerce's or women's organizations, so good for you. You should not be alone. But first, before finding your allies, you have to define what is the problem, because depending, so that's why I put the timeline. What is the problem? What do you want to achieve? And you do, maybe yourself, after the kids are in bed, you take a bit of time to do your own personal SWOT analysis. We'll go back to that as a tool. Because according to these first 3 questions, what is the problem? What do I want to achieve? And what the analysis I've done, you're going to go in one or the other direction to find a lie. And that's crucial to the success of what you want, your advocacy or lobbying activity. I've been talking a lot about allies, so I'm going to go more in detail about that, because as you could see, one of the main steps is find your allies. And warning, one of the pitfalls that I find each time I go to a conference about professional life and personal life balance, for example, is we only have women in the room and the men have to be involved, otherwise they will never be balanced. Also, if you organize an event and you invite only your usual partners who are already convinced about the topic, you are not pushing forward the campaign. At the European Women Lobby level, we know we have an opponent which is called Business Europe. And I want to share that with you because Business Europe actually say that they also represent women entrepreneurs. But they are against any new piece of legislation at European level which would work in the favor of women's entrepreneurs. And that's why in the European Women Lobby, when we published the Purple Pact for Feminist Economic, before that, when we had a campaign for women's in decision-making position, etc., and we organized, well, not at the moment, but 3 years back, we still organized in-presence meetings, conferences, with the support of permanent representation. So we had the multi-permanent representation hosting an event for the European Women Lobby. We invited Business Europe to stand a speaker. Because who do you need to convince? Not the people who are already on your side, the other one. And you know what? They never dare sending the speaker. So then, at the Secretariat of the European Women Lobby, they try to see who is writing on that topic and is actually, for example, against quota for women on board, who is saying that social responsibility should not include any things regarding gender balance in decision-making position, etc. And we invited one of the person that was invited, a man, accepted to come. And it was a very interesting evening because he had come with his arguments, usual. And it was a very strong and interesting debate. And first, it was more interesting for the people in the room because there was a debate, not just people saying the same thing and pushing for the same thing in different words. But actually, at the end of the evening, that guy had accepted to change some of his thinking. So that's a win. It's a one guy, okay, but it's better than just talking amongst ourselves. So find your allies. Let's see, what do you expect from your allies? There might be quite a variety of different types of allies, and you need to have a clear vision about that. You're not going to have them all at the beginning of the campaign. Part of your work during your advocacy or lobbying campaign is to add allies to your campaign. So you need a mapping exercise at the beginning, and you need to assess this mapping exercise from time to time all through the campaign. Different categories of allies. For example, people working in the media can be your allies or they can be your opponent. They will, if they're your allies, they're not going to do with you the same thing than another woman organization who can provide speakers or logistical support or even funding for your activity. You can also have allies locally, which helps with the logistics. If you have good allies in the town hall, then you might have a meeting room free of charge, which is always important. Your allies, they will also have different types of involvement. Maybe you will have a group of young people who will deal with spreading the word on social media. And you work with them in a way that you will not work with them with lawmakers, for example. You will have different relations with your allies depending on what they're doing. And it's okay. You cannot just say, okay, I need support and they're going to be a mass of people supporting me. You need to go into specificities because it's more efficient, right? And your allies also, they have different needs. If you run a campaign with other women organizations, they need also to appear, to be made visible by that campaign because they're working at it, they're providing, they're making an effort, and they need to be visible to be sustainable. But some allies, they don't want to be visible. They will share with you advice. They will open maybe their address book. An ally who does nothing but giving you entry points in different institutions is a wonderful ally. But you need to work in a very specific way with that person. Okay? So mapping exercise will be specific to each campaign. One of the pitfalls is to say, okay, we have worked very well for our campaign on supporting, promoting entrepreneurship amongst students with this and this organization. So now that we are starting an incubator, we are going to start to propose to the same organization to work with us. No. Start your mapping exercise. In 80% of cases, yes, you will work again with the same organization, but the 20% will make the difference in terms of the efficiency, the scope, etc. Any question about allies?
No.
Okay. So when you have your allies, at least those who are going to go through the campaign with you, are going to work with you, etc., you work with them to define a common strategy. That's where the collective starts being very important. Define the strategy, redo the SWOT analysis because it has changed, because it's not the same group of people, and list the actions that you can do together and you need to do for your campaign to achieve the objective that you have set for the campaign. Now, list of action is always somehow a wish list. Don't kill yourself if you don't do 100%. Okay, that life happens. Okay, you had decided you would do a series of videos and you never found the time, but on the other hand, you managed to go and give a presentation on the local TV. That's fine. Okay, and to be able to find your allies, to be able to have a defined strategy, etc., and a list of action, you need 2 elevator speeches. Not one as a business owner, but 2. 1 minute is all that at the first step, people who have no understanding of the topic will give you to convince them that they need to listen to you further. So 1 elevator speech is about the campaign. 1 minute to say, we have this problem, we want to go there, and that's how we're going to do it, and you need to be with us. The second elevator speech is about you in the campaign, because it's you being the representative, and you need to give somehow your credential, as we said before, who you represent, and there you need a few statistics. If you have only 30% women entrepreneurs in your country, is this not the same? You're not going to have the same level of problem than if you have only 17% of women entrepreneurs in your country. So part of your elevator speech, very quickly, just one fact, figures, and you're representing a group of people who have, and then second elevator speech, design a campaign to help solve the problem. One thing that you have to determine also at the beginning when you define your strategy, etc., is the timing of the campaign. The more it goes, the shorter the campaign can be, because with modern life, I mean, I cannot ask a young woman starting a career in her 30s with young kids to be involved in a 1 year long campaign daily. So you need to think about timing, milestones, periods where you will need a lot of people, period where the core group will be working and then spreading the work, etc. So the